Hi, everybody. Um, my name's Ken. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Ken.
Michael was incorrect. I have 85 days today, not 84. He's shortchanging me on one. So on Thursday of this coming week, I'll have 90 and I will be cured. So I'll never see any of you again. That is obviously not the case. As Michael very eloquently said, the evidence suggests that I'm a real alcoholic. I could, I could sit up here and wax on about all of the things that I have lost, the damage that I have caused over the course of, call it 33 years of heavy drinking. The high flying career in finance, the two beautiful children, the woman and women that I have loved very deeply. But to be honest, I don't think that there's a lot of value there, right? I'm potentially the only guy in AA in the city of Seattle who has spent time in a Chinese mental institution, and I can assure you that it's a place no one wants to be. It's as scary as it sounds. But, to be honest, how I got there, and how I got here, it's, a very parallel story to all of the stories that you people have told, my friends have told to many groups like this before. And as I said, I don't see grand value in going into the minutia and the details of what I've given back after a life that I worked hard to create. But I gave it back entirely because of alcohol, right? I gave it back entirely because of my disease. Relapse is a large part of my story. I had, call it, 6 years of strong sobriety from the first time I went into treatment in 2016 until late 2023. And in late 2023, I went out, and that run continued until 85 days ago. It got so bad that between the winter of 2023 until 85 days ago, so let's call it May 1st, 2024, I was in treatment 4 different times. So I've now been in treatment I've been in treatment 5 times total in my life. And the last time was in Salvation Army here in Seattle. So it was either go into Salvation Army or, go live on the streets. And that was a scared straight episode for me, right? Literally like a bad television show, right? Like either you're going into Salvation Army or, you're being thrown out of your apartment, or so you're either going to Salvation Army or you're going to the street. And as I said, I worked hard to get to where I had been in life, and I gave all of it back, right? Like, my rock bottom, is the lowest place I've ever been in my life, and I had a number of those over the course of the last 18 months, and quite frankly, I kept digging, looking for a lower low. So, for me, it was a hard slog to the top, and then it was an elevator shaft down to the bottom. And I didn't ride the elevator shaft in the elevator, right? I jumped face first in and went straight down. And to be honest, that scares me, right? I'm not, I think like a lot of people in this room and in the rooms across the city of Seattle, I'm not a gentleman when I drink. I am I'm a monster, right? And all of the things that you can associate with that, I likely have done, right? I, as Mike said, I spent many years in Asia. The only positive, well, not the only positive, but the biggest positive to come out of that is I never had to drive, right? So I never got a DWI, thank goodness. Because if I had lived in the United States, almost certainly I would have gotten a DWI, and almost certainly I would have killed somebody, if not killed myself, which would have been better than killing somebody else. So drinking for me is not, is not pretty. I thought it was pretty when I was, 15 and had that first drink. And drinking went from being fun back then to fun with consequences in my 20s and 30s, and then just 20s and 30s, excuse me, and just consequences as I ticked into my 40s. And it was, it was ugly, really, really ugly. Um, you know, and I'm sure people in here have dealt with this as well. Um, you drink and people think, oh, you just like to party, you like to have fun, right? Like drinking for me at the end was not fun. Drinking for me at the end was, alone in a hotel room in tears with, two handles of vodka, seeing how fast I could get them down. To forget about all of the things that I had done in my life and all of the things that I had done in my life that really bothered me until the end were likely a function of alcohol, right? And so, I like to tell people I'm a control freak who drinks to the point of being out of control. And that develops into anger and rage, and it's just not a pretty dynamic. Um, and I'm finally starting to realize that, quite frankly, I have a disease of the mind. Um, and with the help of the people in the rooms, um, I feel like at some level now, after 85 days, 85, Mike, um, I'm starting to understand that. I recognize my deficiencies. I recognize when my ego is speaking to me because I am an egomaniac, right? I spent a long part of my life working in finance in very, very peculiar locations, and telling myself I could do this, I can do these things, and being successful. And then literally that took over my entire life, where I was constantly telling myself I can do these things, I can handle this, into situations where clearly I didn't have the emotional capacity to handle. And I think that's why relapse is such a large part of my story, is that again, I'm an egomaniac, and I feel like I can handle alcohol, right? Like I can handle a glass of, I said it in a morning meeting today. I can handle a glass of red wine with a steak. If I have a glass of red wine with a steak, I know now if I have a glass of red wine with a steak, I'm going to end up face down in a gutter with a handle of vodka next to me and likely have soiled myself, right? And that's what kind of drunk I am. And it's ugly, right? But now I recognize that I don't need to drink. B, the bomb is in the first drink for me. Um, C, that alcohol was the solution, not the problem for me. Um, and it was the wrong solution, right? Um, and I've learned that with the help of the people in the rooms, and um, with the help of people like you guys, um, which I would have never thought was possible, right? Because I was always the man who could help himself and figure anything out. And um, to have relationships in a place, as Mike said, that I've never been before, right? I've literally been to, I moved to Seattle in January because a good friend of mine was like, if you stay in Hong Kong, you're going to die. You will drink yourself to death. And I was like, okay. And he said, I've sent you a plane ticket, go to the airport, get on a plane and come here. I had literally been here for 4 days before that. I'm now living on a boat out of the, given to me given to me out of the kindness of somebody in these rooms' hearts, right? He's allowed me to stay there for free. If it wasn't for him, I'd be on the streets, right? So to me, these rooms and the people in these rooms are sacred, right? I would not be, I've got 85 days. I would have likely drank myself to death if I had stayed out when I went into Salvation Army. And if I didn't have the people that I have around me when I came out of there, I probably would have drank myself to death as well, which is a stunning admission. All that's behind me now, right? I said earlier today, willingness was forced upon me, right? I'm willing now to open my ears and my mind to the 12 steps, 12 traditions, and do the things that I'm told. Which is, again, this is a stunning change for me because mostly I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And, you can't change your situation with the same mind that got you in there in the first place, right? So I need to change my mind. I need to change my mindset. And with the help of friends from AA and with the help of the big book and the 12 steps, I'm getting there. I've got 85 days. I'm, back in touch with my family. I am back in touch with potential employers. My sobriety comes first, so I've pushed some of that away and back for the time being because I need to be sober. Because I know if I start drinking again, and I know if I get away from the support structure that I've developed in Seattle, out of the goodness of people's hearts and in the goodness of these rooms, that I will likely drink again because that's the way it looks for me. Right? My alcoholism is, he's been doing steroids and push-ups and bench press behind me. And he's waiting for me to make a mistake. And he wants me dead. And that guy's jacked, so he can kick my ass. I know that firsthand. And so what I can say here today is 85 days ago when I went into Salvation Army, I was hopeless, right? I was, ready to become another statistic. And, now, I've got my mind back. I've got the support of good friends. I've got support of, the community here in Seattle, which again is, a stunning revelation to me, which is why I say the rooms and the people in these rooms are sacred. And I have hope, right? I have hope that I can get back what I gave back. And it won't be the same, it'll never be the same for me, but that's better, right? Because what I was doing to myself before was a disaster. And I will close with hopefully that'll be a brief anecdote. I've gone on for far too long. A brief anecdote that I shared a couple of weeks ago at a meeting. So when I first got sober and I put together that stretch of time back in 2016, 2017, 2018, I was having a very bad day one day, running around Hong Kong, going from meeting to meeting, whatever, and they were all going very, very poorly. And I ran into a guy who I had been in AA with. Now I had peeled away from the AA community in Hong Kong because I had an issue. And, looking back on the issue, I realized the issue was with me. I was making an excuse not to go to meetings, which, I guess we all do that to ourselves. But I saw a guy, and I was feeling terrible, and I was like, this day is terrible. And I saw a guy that I used to go to AA with, and I was like, hey, man, how you doing? He's like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, you look great, man. And I was like, what are you talking about? And there's that great line from the book that your fellows will notice the change before you do. And he was like, what have you been doing? And I was like, well, I'll tell you what I haven't been doing. And yeah, so what I hadn't been doing was drinking. And it had changed the way I looked. It changed the look in my eyes. And it had changed my whole outlook on life. And that's where I'm getting back to today. And I would not be able to get back there if it wasn't for people like you, and it wasn't for the rooms in Seattle. And that's it for me. Thank you all very much.